Going on? Only Mel Cruz here. Um, yeah. So hold on, we just doing a quick mic check. Let's see. Yeah, go back to the channel.
Hey warrior, we live in a world that tells us to hustle.
This video has been promoted. Okay. Go back to the channel.
Yeah, let me get.
Yeah, it's telling me I'm live on here. Okay, so, all right, we're live, and Only Mel Cruz. Trying to look good. All right, so we had this event going on, and right now everyone's here. Our speakers are here, but the audience that we intended, we don't know where they are. Okay. So we got the team on deck. Let's see. Let me see if I can turn this camera around. I don't know if I can, but we got Greg Middleton, who is our vice president of Andragogy Project. This is our treasurer.
Come on out! Come on out!
Come on out! Come on out! It's our Smitty. He's our doorman right now. He's our team player. So what we're going to do is we are going to go through. This is a discussion on financial readiness, preparing for what's next. We're also going to be talking about economic development, and we're going to be talking about what we should be expecting from a congressional candidate, okay? So stand fast. We're going to go into this auditorium, and we're going to start asking some questions and get with the program. So, Ray, you want to run this camera? Yep, that's it. You want to run this camera? You want to run the camera? So we're about to get started. Let's let her, and as the audience members pop in, okay, perfect. Yeah, as the audience members pop in, we will, yeah, just like that so they can see. Yes. Very, very impromptu, very spontaneous, but hey, we're getting it how we live, okay? Okay. So we tried, let's not go on YouTube. We're live right now.
Okay.
And I said, hey, our speakers are here, but
Yes.
we're empty up in here.
Right.
Yeah.
The information though is so important
Sure.
that we're gonna have this discussion.
Great.
And it has to happen.
It does.
So, Greg, our vice president, goes from being a vice president to our YouTube camera person.
Cameraman.
So, let's start with our introductions. This is very spontaneous, so we were hoping to have, Greg, go ahead and pan the empty seats. We were hoping to have, a house full, maybe before it's all over. So while we're at it, we're just gonna get started. Thank you all for showing up. We appreciate you. We've got a fantastic lineup today. Information that you are gonna find. You're gonna wish you were here. That's what that is. You're gonna wish you were here. So Greg, I'm gonna go ahead and have you introduce our vice president because that is your personal connection, since you're so inclined.
Okay.
And
All right. Yeah. Welcome everybody live and on WWW land. My name is Greg Middleton. I'm VP of Andragogy Project. And the President Melanie has asked to put together some speakers and presenters to talk about some current events and issues that are relevant to our community overall. So she asked me if I had a contact that had any experience and expertise with financial management. And I happened to tell her, yes, I do. And this guy has really made my life wonderful. I mean, it was great, but it's extraordinary. And the story behind it basically is I retired from the Indianapolis Fire Department in 2020. At that time, COVID was going on, the George Floyd stuff was going on, and the market was in just chaos. So I had to put all my life savings with TD Ameritrade. And with all that chaos, I went to the guys and said, hey, how should I set up my portfolio? What should I do? What should be the balance? And the guys said, I don't know, basically, okay? And this is money that I was gonna live off of for the rest of my life. So from that standpoint, I was heading home. I stopped at a coffee shop, and in our community, we had this magazine, and my financial guy, Kenneth, was on the cover. So I sat down and read it, called him. He told me, hey, come on in. He said, if you got a chance, bring in some statements and let me look through them. So came in and brought in some statements, or maybe even looked at it online. And he told me, he said, man, basically, they were selling my good stock with some other things just to make up my monthly disbursement. So that tells me right there that TD Ameritrade really wasn't suitable for me. So I present Kenneth here to kind of talk about basically financial management. So Kenneth took my information, really went through it thoroughly, and put together a very good portfolio, great balance, great performance. I've been retired almost 6 years now. I've not worked since I retired, and I've got great financial security. I wake up every morning enjoying a cup of coffee. Rain is sun, and sun is rain. So, I owe that to my financial guy from Melwich Jones. So, Kenneth.
And we are so grateful for you being here. Grateful to put you on this. Yeah, we're excited. So, Kenneth, if you don't mind just giving us a brief introduction, and then we're going to introduce everybody else on the panel, and then we're going to get started with these questions. I know your guys' time is valuable, and I'm just grateful for all of you being here.
Appreciate this opportunity. Wishing we had more people in this world like each of you that are trying to improve the communities that we live in. My name's Kenneth Meeks. I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for 15 years. I've got multiple designations, certified financial planner, accredited behavior financial professional, things of that nature. But at its core, what got me into this profession? One of those college students 20 years ago, Ball State University, not quite sure what they wanted to do with their life. My grandfather at the time, who I'm very close to, I was joking with him and said, hey, there's this foreign language class in our business building. And hey, what's the name of it? I said it's finance. And when I shared that with him, it was the first time he kind of smiled, but I saw some tears starting to come through his eyes. And he followed up by saying he wishes that he had someone capable of helping him with his relationship with money and all the people that he's helped and his retirement, things of that nature. And that's what led to me embracing this profession that we're in right now. And so understanding it's a challenging time right now when it comes to financial advice. We have all kinds of different information at our fingertips. And some of that information's simply seeking to just share information that we want to hear, not always what we may need to hear. But that's where it's have an opportunity to come in and be a resource for people like Greg and others that entrust in me and our process to help them live the best lives they can with the resources they do have.
Thank you for that, Kenneth. Good. Yes, okay, and so now the other two ladies that are on the panel are fantastic, okay? Which last minute they agreed to show up. Both of them are just phenomenal. I think I'm gonna start with you, Danita, because I want you to just give us a brief introduction of who you are. But you did something that we need more of in the community. And that's just simply giving encouragement and giving good advice. Because I know I called you and I said, hey, you know what? Do you ever do any mentorship? She goes, well, I talk to people on the phone on occasion. I was like, well, I just want to run this situation by you and let me get some of your advice. And I was able to just, you made me feel like I could confide in you and, speak to you in all honesty. And your response was honest and authentic and genuine. And it really is why we're here today, because of that level of encouragement you provided. So to you, it may seem like, oh, I just said it, but it really was the linchpin to this. So Danita is fantabulous. Everywhere she goes, people speak highly of her. And that's interesting. When you walk into a room, you don't know anyone, but everybody else that knows them in the room are speaking highly. That's somebody to lock in to. So Danita, if you don't mind, ma'am, please introduce yourself and give us a brief
Okay.
overview.
I am Danita Mudd. I don't know, I guess I have a couple titles, and one, I own a business, Lapsley Inc. We do window treatments, blind shades, that type of thing, draperies, probably 99.9% commercial, government, municipal, that type of thing. Let's see, I've kind of become like involved with community things out of necessity, just, looking around my southeast neighborhood and seeing it just kind of wither away as far as the demolitions, houses and whatever being destroyed, and kind of got on the city's radar not too many years ago, trying to save the Bowser Pump building. So that was kind of like the that catalyst that just started me, I didn't realize I was into historic preservation, but now I know I am. And it goes back to just trying to keep my community alive and not just being devastated by the administration, the different administrations or needs or whatever, and looking at what's going on with city dollars, that type of thing. So that's basically like who I am, and now in this current climate as far as the government is concerned, I've been getting involved even more, hoping, to get folks out to vote and seeing the necessity of being participating, and easily say, voting has consequences, and some people will say, well, government doesn't do anything for me, but then like now, surely you see it, and you don't recognize that they do stuff for you because it's done. You just take it for granted. So anyway, some of my other organizations that I participate with, we're trying to speak up more as far as making sure people actually show up when it's time to cast your ballot.
Awesome. Thank you, Danita. Okay, and last but certainly not least is Kelly Thompson. We call her Citizen Kelly Thompson for a reason. You'll find out in the end. But this lady is, for purposes of this event, is our subject matter expert in terms of what we should expect. And I say we, I mean just regular citizens, what we should expect from our congressional representatives. And a lot of us don't know how it works. We just wake up, we go to the ballot, and we just mark it. We don't know anything about them. We don't check anything. And so we have Kelly here today because she's going to give us some input and some insight on what we should expect and really hold our congressional representatives accountable for. So Kelly Thompson, if you would please, ma'am, introduce yourself, and thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Kelly Thompson, and I am here today to talk to you exactly what Melanie just said about what we could and should expect from congressional candidates and anybody whom we've elected to be our voice and to represent us. I first got involved in this type of political arena in 2020 because about 5 years before that, our school was having a suicide epidemic, our high school, and we were losing 2 kids a year. And it was a school of less than 1,000 students. So everybody knew everybody, and every one of those losses affected every family. So to keep this little announcement or introduction of who I am brief, that grew into a nonprofit in my community where I felt like those of us who knew Hope, capital H, needed to have an opportunity to share that with the kids who couldn't find enough hope to make it to tomorrow. So we opened a nonprofit, and that involved a community coffee house. It involved a summer school program. It grew into a counseling center because I realized in helping our local youth, I needed to help their parents as well. I needed to give these parents who wanted to be excellent parents the tools they needed to be able to communicate peacefully in their homes, just to help them. Because what I found was These were just the kids that we were trying to help had grown up and had kids, and they simply didn't have the tools they needed. So I traveled all around the country and tried to amass those tools myself. I didn't begin to think that I had all the answers, but I knew that there were places that did, and if I could avail myself to that information, I could bring that back to our communities and actually make a difference. And so how did I start paying attention to politics, and how did I start paying attention to our representatives? Well, I had this treasure chest full of the stories that my local families had entrusted me with. And I thought, what do I do with this? I felt like this was a gift to me with which I had a responsibility. And so I went to our local representatives and I tried to share with them, hey, maybe you don't know that this is why our families are struggling. Maybe you're unaware of what we actually need. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. But what I found when I met with them was they just didn't care. And it quite honestly made me angry. And I decided I needed to dig into this arena a little bit more. And so I did. Back in 2020, I actually ran for office because I felt like those families were counting on me to be their voice. And in running for office and getting involved in that process, I became aware of the glaring fact that those that we had elected to represent us were actually doing anything but. And part of that is because we as a community don't demand from them what they should be providing. But then if we look deeper, it's because we as a community don't know what we should be able to demand. We don't know what we should be able to expect from them. We haven't had good representation in so long that we feel disconnected from our government. So while Danita is doing her work, trying to make sure that people show up to vote, we have to take some responsibility in understanding that the systems that have been in place for so long have made them feel like their vote doesn't matter. And we can't blame them for that. We haven't given them good candidates to vote for. We haven't been part of the educational system to help people understand that we do have the ability to take control of our lives. And so that's what I think the most beautiful part of this panel is today, is trying to help you, the viewer, and you, the attendees, understand that we do have power and that our voice does matter. And that if we show up and have these type of community conversations, we can leave understanding that we can make the changes that need to be made in our financial lives, in our communities, and in our government. So thank you for this opportunity today.
Awesome.
Very good.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Is that you clapping, Greg? Yeah. Hey, we're doing it all. Let me kind of squeeze up here real quick and see. You guys share this live if you would. Hey, Shrink and Sharon, thank you for pulling up. You guys share the live. Lock in and tell a friend, okay? Tune in. Okay, so we're going to get right with the questions. And if you have any questions, we'll be checking the chat. So feel free to add your question in there. Too bad you're not here personally because we were giving away some Thanksgiving gift cards, but hey, you're lost. We're all going to eat good. All right. So with that being said, Kendra, we're going to start with you and go right back to you. What are some practical steps that families can take to stay financially stable during periods of government shutdowns or benefit delays, like what we're still experiencing now in terms of the government slowly reopening?
I would say, that's a challenge that isn't just the government shutdown, but we can experience several times throughout our life, and most of that starts with communication. Speaking with our family, speaking with our parents, gaining some insight from those that have already had to navigate these types of challenges. And some of the more simple things would, when we think about finances, most of it is just, I use the analogy, it's like going to the gym. The heaviest weight that you'll ever find in the gym is the doorknob getting into it. And where I'm getting to with that is when we think about our financial well-being, we have to have a clear understanding of what is our use of money. So when we think of that use of money, what do we earn? What do we spend? What do we own? What do we owe? And when we think about that, do our best to align it with the things we care about the most. So where I'm getting to in that context is this would start with a budget. When we reference the word budget, oftentimes that could imply, oh, this is someone telling me I should spend money this way or that way. A budget should align with what's most important to you. And when you decide to take control of that and say, this is where my money's going, and how much does this really bring value to my life, it could include looking at things like streaming services or monthly expenses that we sign up for and have contracts in that really aren't providing us the value we want. So when we go through that budget and really have a clear understanding of that, that's when we can at least provide some capacity for how much should I be looking to save. Now, financial advice, pretty much standard practice states you'd want to have 3 to 6 months expenses set aside for an emergency, i.e. a shutdown. One of the challenges in that context is public employment. Oftentimes we expect more job security. And so we've oftentimes said you can lean more on the 3-month time frame. Well, when we're looking at that and we're comfortable with really getting a sense of our financial situation, our budget, what we're spending, and we can start building up that 3 to 6 months emergency, that's the first course of action. From there, it's starting to share some dialogue and navigate where we may have some additional resources and places of help. And I can imagine perhaps a few of you may have some other resources in that context or within the local community. Or,
You're the financial guru.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is a program in Indiana, it's called the IHCDA, and they have incentive-based savings programs and things of that nature for citizens in Indiana that meet certain thresholds. And I wish more people were familiar with this, but they'll match $3 for every $1 that you're able to set aside and reference in a savings account. There's some commitment levels. I believe you have to keep the money there for a year or 18 months. But when you start building that foundation, there are programs here in our state that will help support that. So,
Can you repeat the name of that again?
IHCDA,
What does that stand for, Ken? Do you know?
Indiana Housing, I'd have to look. it
Okay.
up.
But they have a website, and maybe add that to Andrew got you, Mel.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for that, Ken. Did you have a follow-up or something?
Yeah, so I think the question, which is kind of an epiphany about people are talking about they're living hand to mouth. Some people have to choose between food and their medication. But when you said streaming service, things that basically are
Not keeping you alive.
discretionary,
Right.
right? Do you really need that, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I guess if you look at a budget, that's really kind of the fat,
Yeah.
right? It's not so much the muscle, but the fat. I mean, you can just get away with the old antennas like we did back in the day. We just had 3 stations,
Right.
and something like that. So
Yeah.
those kind of things. So looking more at your discretionary, the money that you don't have to have spent on things that you can do without.
Yeah.
Just really review your budget from that perspective.
And there's been countless research at its core. If everyone has direct deposit nowadays, there's the general guidelines of, hey, you should save 10% towards retirement and things of that nature. And not everyone can get to that. But there has been research that's shown at an absolute baseline, if you can start at 1% of your money going towards a savings account that's hard for you to access. And then most employers will also allow for you to include a 1% increase each year. And so if you can start there, that will give you some capacity to start having some money out of sight, out of mind. to build up that savings. So that's another, if it's not truly being able to think about cutting out these things, then take that amount of income away from your check each month, and then you're not wrestling the thoughts of, because I'll even share this, biggest competition for a financial plan, we're thinking about retirement and these long-term financial goals. It's a lot harder to commit $100 a month to something that has uncertainty in terms of inflation, stock markets, taxes, versus $100 spent on Amazon and you're getting it on your doorstep guaranteed the next day with a smile in a box. So if we're thinking in that context, that's also where it's having some more of that communication and dialogue with some friends, neighbors, a financial advisor, that will also help encourage you to set aside that savings.
Awesome, awesome. Looks like this chat might be moving around. Danita, I've got a question for you. Someone in our comments said something about identify a need versus a want,
Yeah.
and individual development account. So that's
Good point.
that's what that, I guess
That's
that's
what I was referencing, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. So, Danita, my question to you is, we hear a lot about economic development, and I'm just going to be honest, I don't know what that means. I have no idea, but it always winds up being something significant at the end of that term. So explain and tell us, what is economic development and how does it impact your everyday citizen?
Okay. I would describe it as not so much dollars, but just the potential coming into your community, and to kind of Joe Madison, Sirius XM, now gone, but his comment, put it where goats can get it. Basically, just like the city pursues companies to move into the Fort Wayne, Allen County area, because when those companies come in, they're bringing employment, people to work. Those people need things, they need services, they need goods. So that's the dollars, the economic development that increases the services from other companies coming in, making it possible for maybe some business that normally would not have a base to a customer base. Then because now we have these people, new folks coming in, maybe the same people in the community, but they're making more money now. So that's part of that opportunity for a community to grow. And it works just the same if you're in a smaller neighborhood. If now we have like another business move in that hadn't been there before, so people have to travel in to that location to go to work. And so while they're there at work, maybe they need to go to a little corner store, or they need to go to whatever, get lunch. So it's a possibility for like a fast food or a restaurant to move in, because we have all these people that are now in the area, so they need that service. So then that says that this community has the potential to keep that type of business and growing and improving. So economic development can be increased based on housing, because more people are living in the area. It can also affect like employment, just the jobs that are there because a company is closer or somewhere in that vicinity. So people, maybe folks can now walk to the job that didn't have a job before. So that's more money even in an individual household. So those are some of the things that make up economic development. And when people use that term, and it's legitimate, it's real. So it has that kind of gloss over effect, but it is an actual quantitative type measurement.
So what about individuals who are in underserved neighborhoods, and how can they be intentional about having a say in that economic development, as opposed to just waking up and finding out, hey, there's a restaurant here that nobody asked you, did you even like that cuisine? Is it something that you would, patronize? But they woke up and boom, there it is, and so now their traffic is messed up and what have you. How can these individuals in the underserved communities, because that seems like that's where that happens the most, how can they get their voice in on it, and how can they get in front of it?
I think probably one of the easiest ways is to participate in your neighborhood association. And if you don't have one, likely you don't, because there was one at one point and there wasn't enough participation. So it just kind of dissolved over time. But working with, it's hard to do stuff singularly, but in a group, you get a lot more accomplished. People, give you more respect when you bring in the numbers. So I'd say initially, starting with that neighborhood association and just going to them saying, this is my concern, this is what I've noticed is going on in our community, and then working together with that group of people. Sometimes, you might have to step out there by yourself. And so maybe you're seeing what programs the city has, or like for instance, if something is going on and you're not, it just doesn't feel right, then you start calling the city and ask them, well, what is this about? Or just recently, it was like this 6-foot tall post going up in my neighborhood, and right on the main street, the entire block looked like it was gonna be covered with a fence, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. So then I'm calling the neighborhood association president. She knows some folks downtown, calling the mayor, and a couple days later, those posts were cut down to like about 2 or 3 feet off the ground. So that type of thing. If you see one of those signs that says public hearing, call about it. Call and check and see what it's about, and go to that public hearing and state your concern, or pull some people, call some folks and take them with you. But that's the kind of stuff that we can't just sit and kind of grumble about it to ourselves. We got to speak up and be proactive as much as you can, and then act on it, and not just be passive about it and say, oh well, they're doing, we got to speak up.
Yeah. So, and just a quick follow-up, so is that the extent of the city government's responsibility to the citizen, just putting up the public hearing notice, or do they even have to do that?
Some things they have to do that, a lot of stuff they don't. And then unfortunately, there's times when they have meetings, and they'll invite the community to the meeting about some changes that they've planned for, and they'll ask for, they'll have the meetings in order to get community comments, and sometimes, we'll go to the meetings and you presented your comments, and then before you can almost get home good, they made the changes. So, that gets frustrating too, but you gotta show up,
Right.
and continue to push for the change.
I like the driveway you made for the comment, because how good is your representative? How good is your precinct committee person? Which is exactly what you addressed. So everything you just loaded up was like, hey, who is our representative?
Right.
How do we know, maybe you might even have an answer to that, how do you know how the economic dollars are divided? Like every city has a bad side of town, Indianapolis is pretty much the east side, right? Chicago's the west side probably, but why? Why aren't those dollars disseminated equally?
Yep.
And that goes with what you're saying,
Yeah.
based on what you just said.
Right.
You loaded it up beautifully
Yes.
Yeah.
with, where's our person representing?
Yeah.
And sometimes we're so busy
Yeah.
trying to load our 401ks
Or just put food on the table.
Or put food on the table, as long as I'm voting my pocketbook,
Right.
so Kenneth can manage
Right.
my retirement
Right.
account.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope that y'all don't tear this thing up before I can
Right.
sign off.
I know you probably have a question, but if I can just follow up for a
Please.
second on
By all
what
means.
both of these two generous people have shared with us today. I want our listeners to understand that while we are three people who bring three different sets of experience to this conversation, I have goosebumps right now. I want you to remember that all of this is interconnected. Everything that we are talking about, all three of us, and including some of you people who are actually here in the audience today, have a role to play in this. When she's talking about economic development, very expertly as she did, because she's involved in it, and we're so grateful for that. The reason that it's hard to find neighborhood groups, the reason that we have a southeast side or a east side or a west side of Chicago is, and this is going to be hard to hear, but you really probably already know this is by design. There are silenced groups of Americans who we don't hear from, and it's not even their fault. There are, as we talk about these different pockets of communities, areas where it is impossible to show up at an event like this from 10 to 2 during a work day. And there are pockets in this very county where it would be easy to fill an auditorium from 10 to 2 of people who don't have to show up to work. And what we need is representation, especially from our elected officials, from precinct chair on up, that is willing to go to the people. The job that your representatives are applying for is to be your voice. And if the people who are supposedly elected to represent you, that we've supposedly hired to represent us, have not been to your neighborhood, have not made it easy for you to get in touch with, they are not doing their job. And that's the breakdown that we have right now, right? When you talk about economic development, we need to create strong, vibrant communities that are alive in order to attract business. When a business wants to come and open themselves up somewhere, they look at, is there housing for the people that we need to hire? How are the schools in the areas that we need to move people to? What sort of support systems are there? Are there parks? Are there things that add to the quality of life? And this needs to happen. And this needs to happen from the community level, the state level, and the federal level, all the way down. When you elect people who actually care, then they enact policy that will benefit communities and the economic growth in those areas, and will free up dollars in paychecks so that they can plan for a retirement that they'll be able to live in, survive in, with some dignity and without panic. That's what has broken down. These underserved communities very often also don't show up to vote, and I get it. Number one, we make it hard for them to go to vote. We put polling places that are not close to them. We have the doors open during hours where they have to be at work. We need to do better. And I guess my role here today is to help people understand what we should expect from our representatives and how we can demand it from them, right?
Can I piggyback on that?
Oh, yes, please.
So I think there's a common thread in this theme where I'm discussing our personal finance. But if you really think about our government, we're discussing our public finance. And if you have an understanding of, again, the use of money, you know, what's it being invested in? Where is our government spending? What do we own? What do we owe? Then you also have a voice to express how you would like to see that money utilized. And even if we look at a context of a politician that we did not vote for, that doesn't mean our voice could influence what they're thinking, because our voice could still afford for an opportunity for them to hear something they've not been exposed to. And so, but as we've shared, when we're thinking in this context, we have power both over our personal, but then also our public finances. So.
Oh yeah, no. I was actually just telling our camera person, Shout out to everybody out there at YouTube. Appreciate you guys pulling up. So, I was telling you, because your finger can be seen on this. Yeah, but that's okay, because we're getting it how we live, okay?
Right.
That's what
Right.
we're
This
doing
is
here.
real.
Absolutely. You guys, oh man, you guys are phenomenal.
Just one quick little comment I'd
Yes,
like
please.
to
Yes.
toss in when we're
Indeed.
talking about our elected officials. Even if you didn't vote for them, they're still,
work for you.
right, they still work for you, and they need to hear from you. And, I mean, it's so easy anymore. I mean, you call them, email them, write them, whatever, and typically, it might take a couple weeks, but somebody, you know, you'll get a form letter, but it kind of comes back referring to what you called in about. So anything going on that's not, that you agree with or don't agree with, you need to share it with them. Just, you know, you kind of are careful of how you share it so that you don't have, you know, Secret Service or FBI.
Right, yeah.
That's
Right, right,
Sure,
exactly,
sure.
but,
And if you encourage enough others to share it, I do think there's that level of changing a perspective of because we all can change, but if the squeaky wheel gets the grease, the loudest voice is the only one that's heard, then we can't be upset about that when we're not expressing our own.
right.
Well, that segues into, and I'm just gonna take these two questions, and they are for you, Kelly.
Okay.
What systems or processes are in place so that citizens can bring their concerns, ask questions, request assistance, and then what are realistic response times? And then, you know, how can residents who rarely attend these town halls and public soirees, if you will, how can they, you know, what do they need
How
to
do they
do?
engage?
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
yes, how do they engage?
Okay, so I want to take a brief second and just lightly touch on question one so that they can understand my answers to the
Please.
ones that you just said.
Sure.
So I'm here to talk about the congressional level. And because for some of us, it's been a long time since government class, our senior year in high school, a brief refresher is that our federal government is made up of 3 co-equal branches. That means each branch has equal power. Now remember this. You have the executive branch, which is the president. You have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. And then you have the legislative branch. That is Congress, the House and the Senate. That means that Congress has just as much power as the president, who has just as much power as the judicial branch. What I want you to understand is Congress in that judicial branch has a very, very important role. And our founding fathers put this into place so that we never had a king, so that we never had one ruler over us. There were these checks and balances in place. So Congress has some very important jobs. Congress is said to have the power of the purse. Because Congress writes laws and legislation, that's what laws are, right? They decide how much taxes we take in at the federal level and how those dollars are spent. That is the role of Congress. That is not the role of the executive branch. And the reason that that power rests with Congress is because Congress is made up of representatives. Think about that word. A representative is somebody whose job it is to represent you. You all can't go to Washington, D.C. and knock on the president's door and tell him what you need. That doesn't happen. That can't happen. But you all have representatives that have been elected to represent you. The reason that Melanie is asking this question about how do underserved communities get to be heard if they can't show up at events like this or town halls, the question that I want to ask is, why are we holding events that our people can't show up to? Why are our representatives defining when and where and how the people get to reach them? When they work for us, we should be the one to say we need to have access during these hours, and then also some access during these hours, and I need to have somebody answer a phone. And while we very truthfully just said that when you call in, it might take a few weeks, you get a letter is not what we want. What we want is for them to hear us and to change policy, change laws, and enact the things that we deserve, because it is our tax dollars, right? It is our money that we are turning over to the federal government and entrusting them to spend it in our best interest. And I think we can all agree that it has been quite some time since that has actually happened. And the reason is because we have been fed a lie, and we kind of believed it. And it's not even our fault. But here's the lie. The lie is the people that we need to elect, the politicians, need to be perfect and polished and look a certain way. They need to have degrees and walk and talk like they know better than us. But the truth is, we need people in power who have actually felt our pain. We need people in power that when we call or we write or we show up or we grab a microphone and we say, my life is hard because I can't find anywhere that I can live that I can afford. And instead of them saying, okay, let's talk about finding affordable housing. Let's talk about how to get livable wages. Let's talk about how to get the things that we need. The people who are brave enough to share their pain are met with shame and blame. And that has to stop. And part of the reason I'm here is to let everybody know that if you're feeling that, reject it. You have every right to declare and demand what you need. This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But for far too long, the government has said, we know best, let's silence the people. And so your act of resistance to this type of oppression is to voice, say what's on your mind boldly, do it in groups, do it individually, call, and if you get a letter back, call them back and tell them, I don't want a letter. I want to see what you're doing, right? And I think you asked, how can we hold those type of representatives accountable? How do we know?
Right.
It's impossible for our representatives to be everywhere. But just like today, as we are on social media, letting you hear and learn today, our representatives can and should do the exact same thing. Our representatives should take phone calls about whatever it is and then pop right on social media and say, I just had 114 calls about the fact that, fill in the blank. And they can say, this is what I think we should do, please send me your ideas. And then that same representative needs to go to Washington, D.C., do a live, just like we're doing now, saying, I'm walking in today to tell them what you need. You go in, tell them what you need, and then the representative needs to come out and say, this is what they said, this is who said it, this is who's standing in our way. This is called representative government. It's just we haven't had it for far too long that this seems like a crazy new idea. But this is the way it's supposed to work.
So what if they don't do that? What if we're signing petitions and we're calling and we're getting angry
Right.
and now we're showing up
Yep.
in DC
Yep.
and now they got the bars up.
Yep.
I mean, what if they just refuse to hear from us
Yep.
when they know
Yep.
we're the reason why they're in office?
Yep.
Then what do we do?
Yep, okay. Here's the wonderful thing that I don't know if you're aware. For Congress, the House of Representatives, their terms are 2 years on purpose, right? That means that every 2 years, we, as the constituents, as the people who live in their districts, get to decide whether we want to keep them or fire them. And that is power. And the people in power want to keep their jobs. This is why it's important for everybody to call. The more phone calls they get and the more letters they get, the more they realize we're paying attention to them. And the more they feel the pressure to pay attention. While our voting record in Indiana, our voting rate is the lowest in the nation. We have the lowest voter turnout in the nation. They're not afraid of us. If we, the people, show up to the polls like we saw happen a couple weeks ago across the country, people waiting in line to say, no, 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 we've had enough. If we start showing up to the polls, they will start listening to us. If our representatives are doing their job, they get to stay. If they're not doing their job, they gotta go. This is why this mid-decade redistricting is such a big issue right now. Because what's happening is the government, the federal government, knows that the policies that they have enacted, all of those policies are gonna hurt we, the American people. They're aware of that. So they're afraid of losing control of the House. Right now, the Republican Party has control of the executive branch and the legislative branch, the House and the Senate. They're afraid of losing those seats. We have elected Republican officials who have actually gone on national TV and said, if we lose control of the House, I'm going to go to jail. Those words have been uttered. They know they're breaking the law. They know they're not serving the people. So we have to show up to vote. And here's the other thing that we have to do, and I want you to hear me very, very carefully, okay? We have to run for office. We, the normal people, have to run for office. If you think I care, that qualifies you. If you are showing up for the right reason because you want to make a difference in your communities, that qualifies you to be a representative of the people. Check your heart, examine it. If you would do the job for free because you care, you are the right person to run for that job. Whether it is for a precinct committee person, township trustee, city council, county council, the state house, or Washington, D.C., we have to get normal people back into these roles so that we can fight for normal people, right? And so we as a community, we have to support each other. When you hear a neighbor say, I want to step up and I want to run for office, we need to look at them and say, how can I help you? This is how we make the changes that we need. This is how we take our country back.
You know it's good. You know it's good. With the information you're getting, it's good, and you know it, and we know it. Kenneth, I'm going to swing around here to you. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Kenneth, here's what is bothering me significantly. This 50-year mortgage.
Oh my God.
And Donald Trump said, hey, you know what, hey, it's good. I can't do an imitation.
No, good.
It's good, it's great. You know, hey, you know, you get a lot. Break that down for us. Break that down for people that are struggling now to get a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that, Ken.
So this is one of many headlines that I think oftentimes is red meat, or there's parts of the population that it may provide an opportunity to own a home. So a lot of this legislation, if I'm looking at this, if the differences between being able to afford the home I want to live in for the rest of my life with a 50-year mortgage versus a scenario of all I can do is rent for the rest of my life, then there is a part of our population that this type of thing could benefit. However, very likely there's financial institutions that this could benefit more.
Yes.
And so when we think of this, a lot of things when we think about our government and even the things on the personal level that we may not be able to control, the better we understand and the situation impact it can have on us, our families, that's where we can afford them to have better decisions around something like a 50-year mortgage. And so the other one that I've had questions about often also is Social Security. And I've shared this with clients, but there's the thought of, hey, Social Security with elected officials stating, we're gonna get rid of federal income taxes on it. And that's not entirely accurate. When we think of Social Security, 70% of Social Security beneficiaries do not pay federal income taxes on the Social Security benefit. Legislation that's passed has extended that to 90%. So if we're thinking of that, if it's saying, hey, 90% of people no longer pay income taxes on Social Security, that's a fair statement. If someone's stating, hey, now no one's paying Social Security income taxes, that's a bit more misleading. But in the context of that, it's really an additional 20% of Social Security beneficiaries that are no longer receiving it. And so the unfortunate side of that is stating information in that context does not sound as attractive. If I'm a politician and I say, hey, credit me for getting rid of income tax on Social Security, now we're in a scenario where I look a lot better than being honest and saying, I removed the tax for additional 20% of recipients. So I tie that back to the mortgage, where this is something that it can be a difficult decision. I've seen estimates, a $5,000 home, this could equate to an extra $300 less in a mortgage payment. So it's trading $300 per month for an additional 20-year commitment. And for us, and there's people in certain settings that the extra $200, $300 commitment, or finding a property that is within your price range to stay with that shorter term mortgage is going to make more financial sense. However, if the only capacity you have is home ownership with a 50-year mortgage versus renting, then there's still some prospects where that can be more beneficiary. So,
And even with that, on the 50-year, it takes longer to even start getting equity, right?
yeah,
Because all of your money's at the beginnings
correct.
on interest.
Correct. So
And the
loans
interest
are
rates, the interest rate's higher on a 50-year because the vulnerability or the risk is higher, right?
So you think about the percentage of your payment when you first take out a mortgage. If it's a 50-year, a much higher amount of that payment is just going back to the bank. And it's going to take a lot more years before that payment that you are putting towards that mortgage will go towards the value of your actual home. So that 50-year mortgage, another way of putting that is, you're putting more of your payments towards the value of the bank and the financial institutions, and less of that payments committed to the actual value of your individual home.
So who really wins off the 50-year mortgage? Overall, I realize that it's an entry point for some families, and hopefully they will be able to change that mortgage over as their income goes up. But if you look at this as a whole, who really benefits the most from the offering of a 50-year mortgage in your
Financial institutions. I mean,
Banks.
that's
yeah?
now, and that's when we think of that. I would also look at it in a reference of it being a distraction, and it being a solution that can sound more appealing than addressing housing challenges in other areas.
Right.
So hey, I've got a solution, a 50-year mortgage, because it's not really looking to entertain some ideas or thoughts that can enable more home ownership in other capacities. So, hey, if I propose this, financial institutions can win along with a very small percent of our population. If I look at some other legislation,
Yeah.
well, now the people that help get us in office may not be benefiting as much in that capacity.
But the people who are in office to benefit who?
Yeah.
The people. That's the thing. That's the frustrating thing. When we say we have a housing affordability crisis, and they give us a solution, their solution, which I see benefits the banks instead of the families that are trying to buy homes, quite honestly, it infuriates me, because people are too busy to even understand what, Greg, you just pointed out so eloquently, which is the whole benefit of buying a home as opposed to renting is to amass some wealth. And you get that two ways. One, part of your payment goes toward the equity of your home, goes toward paying it off so that it becomes yours one day. But also, properties tend to appreciate over time. So what a renter doesn't have are both of those things. But if you're asking somebody wants to get into a home so that they can appreciate the appreciation, right? So that they can obtain that, that's good. You just don't want to stay in that 50-year mark. What makes me mad is that the people that we've elected to represent us take this easy route that also benefits the banks who are contributing to their campaigns, which is how they get elected. It tells me they're not really working for us. They're working for the special interests, and they're working for the banks. When there are easy legislative changes that we can make to make housing more affordable. We can give tax incentives to builders to build affordable housing. We can change some of our zoning laws to make it so that we can take the properties that already exist and make them affordable to our families without straddling them and throttling them with a 50-year mortgage, whereas in this country right now, the average age of someone to be able to buy a home is 40 years old. If you're 40 years old and you take out a 50-year mortgage, tell me when that house is going to be yours. Hope you're alive.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what they're saying too is that, like with a 50-year mortgage, you buy a house for $200,000, and in 50 years, paying it off, you have that loan for 50 years, you're gonna pay $800,000 just in interest, and none of that makes sense. And like you all were saying, like early on, equity, you may as well be in an apartment, because if you tried to sell it, you wouldn't have any money coming back to you to help you buy the next house, because all of your payment, probably 80%, 90% of it is going to the interest. So the big corporations, the banks, they're making the money.
And I think that's the challenge of having the conversation of a 50-year mortgage is it's gaining oxygen in the room and allowing a fight for, hey, we're going to provide some more people the opportunity to buy a home. It's going to come at the cost of this $200,000 home. You're going to put $200,000 in your home on this mortgage and $600,000 into the bank's savings account. And so just keeping that very simple. But even when we're discussing this mortgage, it's preventing the other steps that could be utilized to free up those $200, $300, $500 a month on that same 30-year mortgage. So we're not having that dialogue, discussing tax credits and benefits that could enable someone to afford an extra payment amount on a 30-year mortgage. We're shifting the conversation to a 50-year where, again, it's actually an extra $200,000 for a financial institution in that 50-year mortgage versus the 30-year.
And let's look at this affordability crisis that we have right now, because we're talking about the price of the home. And that's only one factor as to why Americans are 40 years old or older before they can buy their first home. It's because we live in a country that has no problem having medical debt be the #1 reason of bankruptcy, that has no problem battling our kids with an insane amount of college debt, right? So one part of the affordability crisis is houses cost too much money. The other part is we don't have enough discretionary income. We don't have enough money left over on our paychecks after we pay what we have to pay to be able to afford a home. Our representatives need to fix this on all the fronts. And we are only asking for, on many of these, whether it's higher level education or it's healthcare, we are only asking for what every other industrialized nation already does. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Out of 33 industrialized nations, 32 of them have universal health care. We are the only country that doesn't. And so as an employer, I pay $1,457 a month to cover one of my employees and his family in healthcare every month. That's almost $18,000 a year. I could give him an $18,000 a year raise. He could then afford to buy a home. Do you see how I said earlier how all of this goes together? We have just been throttled in all the arenas, and now they're saying, oh, just be in debt for 50 years. That's their solution? No, we have better solutions. Trust me, we do.
Right. And if we're not hearing those solutions, then
Right.
we've got to demand them.
Right.
We have to demand them.
We have to demand
Well,
them.
you're on fire, Kelly
Oh my
Thompson.
gosh,
There's
I'm
no
so
doubt.
tired of
Girl,
this. Yes.
Kelly Thompson is on fire,
Yeah.
if you hadn't realized that. You know, Kenneth, I do want to kind of swing back around to you again, because November 16th is when they did something with the credit score in terms of Fannie Mae. So now all of a sudden, the credit score is not even being considered. It's not going to be underwritten by a computer or just, a set number of statistics. Now humans are actually going to look at it, and, now how can we ensure that that's even going to be fair? That racial bias and sexism and and all the other isms are not gonna come into play? And how are we gonna make sure that everyone is able to afford a home? I mean, from your professional position.
So where I look at individual needs and impact of legislation like this, most of it starts with focusing on what we can control. And when we think about some of those uncertainties, whether it's legislation, whether it's interest rates going up, whether it's job loss or inflation, finding ways for us to prepare for that. And so if we're just referencing credit in particular, it's really just a few factors that we're going to come down to that. That's still coming back to how do we use money. So if we think of our credit, can we make all of our payments on time? If we can do that, that's going to at least give us that fighting chance. That's probably one of the biggest factors we can control. And again, we got to know, what is it that we owe, and what is it that we own, what is it that we spend, what is it that we earn. So again, there's some legislative scenarios that could probably benefit that more, whether it's our healthcare costs, things of that, but I'm just looking at it from a lens of if we can make our payments on time, and if we can utilize whatever credit we're extended and show that we don't need to use it on a consistent or regular basis. And those two scenarios are going to give us that best fighting chance in terms of qualifying for. Unfortunately, yeah, there's going to be legislation that changes things, and we're also in a lens where some of these systems, this panic, this fear of, okay, now credit's going to change, easily giving us a scenario where we just lose hope. Well, hey, I was, thinking I'd qualify for a mortgage. With this new change, I'll never be able to do it. I might as well just give up. And that's where I oftentimes see us fall even more victim of some of those changes that could not just risk us affording a home, but just overall home affordability or the financial security of financial institutions we rely on that are leaning on these credit reports.
One thing and that's a great question, it's an excellent answer, because like you said, control the things that you can control.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I had a chance to build a home, and I looked at the entire criteria, right? And the only way I looked at it was, I don't want them to give me a reason to not be qualified or not be approved. I don't want my FICO to be too low. I don't want my debt-to-income ratio to be too low. I don't want my credit card whacked, right? Because that's the easiest way to say, look, we'd love to serve, but we can't because you got this.
Right.
When you control things you can control, you don't worry. If my FICO is healthy, it's healthy. If my ratios are healthy, they're healthy. So those things are just something that we just have to control on our own,
Okay.
I think something community-wise, like the people that own homes now, and it may be all over the city, all over the country, but there's a lot of, basically corporations are out there buying up properties,
Yes.
buying houses that people have lived in forever.
Yep.
And it sounds good to get a lump sum, a couple $100K or $150 or whatever dropped in your lap, and you walk away from a home that's paid for. And it's like, are you thinking about the fact that, one, when you leave that house that's paid for, you got to go somewhere and live, in some place. So, but that money is not going to last for long. But people get tempted by that. And a lot of that is happening. And as a homeowner, like I'll get a call or a postcard at least maybe a couple times a day. Someone's calling trying to buy your house. And then just to add like a little side note, recently, like a young man that I'm aware of inherited his grandfather's house. that was paid for. He sold it no sooner than, he got the paperwork, and now he's sleeping on somebody's couch. So, that money, he went through the money like in 6 months.
Wow.
And now he's broke, don't have anywhere to stay, but then he didn't have the, just, head-wise to realize that's not the smart thing to do, or not want to listen to people that were trying to counsel him.
And I could build on that because I have a lot of conversations with younger individuals, and you've got student loan debt, you've got lack of confidence in income and being able to afford a home, but you also have interest in wanting to have the freedom, flexibility of renting. And what I'm noticing more of in that context is, home ownership is just a burden. And so I'll use this same example or analogy where, there are some challenges of home ownership, but it's also a blessing. And it's one that will pay off much later in life. And I'll share the same scenario. It's centered around the people you choose to be around, but having children can be the same thing. I have 3 kids. I have friends that, hey, kids are loud, they're annoying, they're expensive, and if that's the only voice, that's the only thing that I'm hearing, I could have easily been someone that said, I don't want kids. Just like I could easily be the one that says, I don't want to own a home. I don't want to cut my own grass. I don't want to worry about a roof and things of that nature. But it's understanding in the context of that, it is one of the most fundamental, basic pathways to having an asset that you can lean on down the road or pass to your loved ones.
Just to follow up on both of these two things, I was just reading a statistic the other day that really got me, and it said that by the year 2030, 40% of homes will be owned by private equity firms. So what that means is, just so you understand, because I'm going to bring the legislative side to this into play, because we need to be protected from this. What private equity firms do is, there's a bunch of rich people that get together and they say, I got a bunch of money, I don't know what to do with, what should we do? And they pool their money and they go into neighborhoods and they start buying up properties, okay? And these people that have been living, as you said, hand to mouth, are being dazzled with numbers that they think will change their lives. They sell those homes, and these private equity firms, then keep in mind, they've pooled all their money, they come in and they buy large swaths of our neighborhoods, they fix them all up and price people out of those neighborhoods. We have to look at the long-term effects of this. Where are these people going to go? If you're one of these people that's being tempted to sell your home like this, I want you to understand that while those dollars seem very, very alluring and seem to be life-changing, where are you now going to live? Because the fact that you got a high dollar for your house means that all the houses now are high dollar. Your money is going to have to compete with these private equity firms that have no problem coming in and dropping $50,000 over market value, $100,000 over market value. But what that does is change the market for everybody else that's trying to buy a home. And so what we need to do is to demand that our legislators, our representatives, write laws that prevent this from happening. This is what our representative government is supposed to be watching out for us. They don't work for the rich people, they work for us. Make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yep, we have a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
we do?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Hi. So my question is for a generation of people who, as you said, may not see this type of money again in their lifetime. What should be our action plan as community leaders to educate, to inform, to get them in the voting process? Because at the end of the day, if people don't know, they're going to make assumptions based on what they do know. And if you give someone, say, okay, I'll give you $250,000 for your home, they will take the $250,000 for their home, not paying attention to the other areas that they have to do it, because they may not see that type of money ever again. Or they may feel that if I don't make this move now, will this deal be as good 10 years from now? So you have several, I know my wife and I, we have questioned, should we sell now, or should we wait? And if we wait, will we get the same value now that we would down the road? And so the main question that I have for you is, what is the action plan, or what are some steps that we need to take as community leaders, especially to help that crew, I would say 18 to about 45, because that is the crew that is really not active in the voting process, or is coming into this in their own, and they're making decisions, and especially if they're a person of color, or if they're a person of low income, they get a lot of money, or they got a lot of information been put out at them, on top of having children, student loans. So what is the action plan that we need to have as far as educating them on, hey, this is what's going on out here, this is what you need to be aware of? What's the action plan for that?
Just off the top of my head, I would say, one, you get in front of a whiteboard with a group of people and put that 250K at the top, and then you start deducting. Okay, so you got 250. So have you looked at the market or other properties and see how much you would have to pay to get into the next house?
Don't forget the 15% tax they're gonna take right off the top of that, right?
Exactly, and everything else, all the realtors and whoever else you have to pay. But where are you moving to? How much does that house cost? How much is it per month? What about your insurance, your taxes, the other things that you're paying for, as far as your car, or if you have student debt, that type of thing. So all of that, once you start deducting all of that off of that 250K, then I guess you could have another column that shows where you are now, and maybe your house is paid for, maybe you only have 5-10 more years to pay for it. So what happens if you double up on your payment, and or just pay 1 month in advance, and then from that point on, you just keep paying on time. So, and then sometimes maybe you pay a little bit more on principal, and you're still, that affects how much interest is left on it, because you're taking away the principal that they're tacking on the extra dollars for. So let them compare what happens to that 250, and then what happens where you are, and you're looking at the same kind of numbers, and recognizing that taxes and insurance is going to be higher on that side when you sell that 250, when you get the $250,000 to go to the new house. And then just have them see what is going on with the dollars there. I think that's, and education is important, just when it comes to voting. And my group that I'm with, we're like, the question anymore is not so much are you registered, but it's do you vote?
Right.
And then along with that, do you vote? Then there's questions that come along. Well, if you do, why? If you don't, why? And then we try to figure out how to get you to be a person that's motivated to vote, and get to the point where you're looking for primaries and regular elections, and you show up. But the education part is extremely important.
I think that every single one of us would say education, right? The question is, how do you do that? We're holding right now a community conversation to educate as many people as we possibly can about this. We've just been trained as a society that we don't know, we aren't supposed to know, we can't understand it, why try, give up. And we've been drinking that Kool-Aid for too long. Conversations like this need to continue to happen. Keep in mind, we have a president who said he doesn't like smart people, he likes stupid people. This is a quote. And why is that? Because people who don't know are easy to manipulate and control. So we, as the people, have to do whatever we can to start these conversations. So I'm thinking, Maybe we need to hold meetings just like this at libraries, in neighborhoods, in your garage, in your living room. You can call people like me. You can call them I'm not stupid meetings. Call them whatever you want that will get people there. And let them know it's not their fault they don't know. People profit off of our not knowing. And so part of our taking care of each other, part of the mutual aid that we are all learning we have to be a part of is also this education process. Somebody like you who gets these phone calls or you get these things, they need to know there are people like Kenneth that they can call and say, is this wise? They need to know that there are those services out there. They need to know what's happening from a legislative perspective and what is actually predatory coming after them. Because here's what I know. When people get mad, they show up. When they realize that somebody is taking advantage of them, look at the No Kings rallies, right? Look at the Black Lives Matter movement that was global. Global. Other cities around the world painted those words across their streets. The people have power. We just don't know it. And when we do know it, we do show up to vote and we do show up to learn when we see our learning as an act of rebellion against a system that is trying to kill us. Sorry if that feels overly dramatic, but it's just the truth.
It's certainly the truth.
Yep.
It's certainly the truth because we're living it.
Yep.
So now I know this event was supposed to run for a few hours, but you know, we've been making adjustments. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna let you know right now that you're gonna get the, you know, we're gonna do a drawing for
He wins.
Yeah,
Yay.
you're certainly gonna get one. Thank you for coming and even participating. What an excellent question. So I want us to go ahead and lean towards. Awesome. I want us to lean towards closing. And I know we have, you know, because all you guys sent you guys say, hey, look, these are concerns and inquiries. But I do want us to be able to do this again.
Yes.
And then hopefully in a different time frame so we can check to see if, you know, we can get some more citizen participation. And hopefully you guys will be willing to commit to come back and let's thoroughly get into it. But what I'd like us to do now is lead towards you guys giving us some good last final words in terms of, you know, what do we need to do? I mean, we've kind of talked about some things that we need to do, but give us something to meditate on until we come back again.
I guess quickly, I just say, you know how the term woke has been taken away and considered negative. I like to reclaim it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if you're not woke, if you don't know what's going on, then that's how you're taken advantage of, and you're uneducated.
Yep.
So we need to stay woke and be aware of what's going on, pursue information, and not rely on sometimes you got to have multiple streams of where you get your information from, and not just be tunnel vision into one particular spot. But that would be my comment, you know, and the educate, enlighten, and inform. We need to, you know, stay with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few things that I think we can call them action points that we can do going forward from here. Number one, remember what I said about the fact that we need you to run for office. We need real people to run for office. This is a nonpartisan event. Maybe, I don't know after what I've said, but I want you to know that you look to see what party actually seems to be caring about you. You make that determination yourself and contact your county party and ask them how you can get involved. Every county in Indiana has both a Republican Party and a Democratic Party, okay? They have offices, they have people there that are gonna try to help you get elected. And we want you to run for office, number one. Number two, we need to vote. We have to vote. If you don't vote, you're saying that everything that's happening right now is okay with you. You're rubber stamping what we're experiencing right now. And this next election that we have coming up in 2026, there's no president on the ballot, which means that Every single vote matters. I was at a meeting last night where a city council person lost their seat by 300 votes. This means that it matters when they had over 10,000 people not show up. If we go to the polls and we vote for what we believe is in our best interest, for the candidates that we believe are actually going to fight for us, then we get the representation we need. So, run for something. Just go online and type in run for something. There is an organization that will help you run. It's just like runforsomething.com or something. And also make sure you show up to vote and take somebody with you. We can't blame the young people for being disillusioned. We've had a government that hasn't listened to them for a very long time, but it's time to change that, and your vote will do that.
I was thinking, piggybacking on Danita and referencing woke, and Kelly referencing power of our vote. And when I'm thinking about our personal finances, each dollar that we find a way to earn, to spend, to own as an asset or use or as a liability, we need to be woke up on that and really have clarity on where each of those votes are going. Is it going towards something that aligns with my values, what I find is important, that could not just align in those within the next few days, but several years or possible generations to come? Or is it just being taken away from institutions or goods that really don't enhance our overall quality of life? And if we look in that context, I think that's where I usually would see the biggest impact in regards to having more opportunity within our own financial well-being. So whether it's home ownership, whether it's retirement, whether it's that emergency fund, we have to wake up and know what it is we have and where we're placing each vote for each of those dollars. So.
Awesome. I do want to shout out T Sizzle in the YouTube. He commented, that's right, stay woke.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for being here the entire time. So if you want to drop your Cash App in the comments, we'll make sure that you get the equivalent of the holiday gift dinner card that we're giving out to randomly. But you've been on it, and we thank you for that. So I want to thank you guys for showing up, and thank you for being flexible and adjustable. And I really want you guys to come back so that we can try a different time slot, so we can really get the community in and out. You guys were on fire. I mean, and the way you guys played off of each other was just, I mean, yes,
This was fun.
certainly
Thank
was.
you.
And so we got to do it again, and
Thank you.
hopefully you guys have the room to do it. And thank you, and thank you for showing up, sir. And swing that camera around here. I want to just thank my team from andragogyproject.org. Solid. So thank you, everybody on the team. And that's it. That's the podcast. And be sure to like, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment, because you don't want to hear from you. And until next time, y'all, we will see you when we see you. Thanks, you guys.